Hello, everybody. Welcome to Smartcat webinar series. My name is Kate. I'm an event marketing manager here at Smartcat. Before we start, let me go through some technical issues. First of all, your mics are muted, but we will have a question and answer session at the end, and you can either put your questions in the chat box or simply raise a hand and I will unmute you and you can ask your question directly. So we really appreciate it. We'll really gladly communicate with you in live. Also, we are making the recording of this webinar and you will receive it in the follow-up letter, so you can go through it once again. I think that's it for me. Let's start. And Anton, please.
Hi, everyone. And thanks for joining, first of all. Thank you for your time. We will try to utilize it as positive as possible and as productive as possible today. So we joined today to talk about the connected translation and how it can help you with building localization of websites and applications mostly. So let me start with several points which gets me personally interested in it, and I hope it will also be interesting for you. So first thing I wanted to start with is why are we at all speaking about, and why is it important? There's a famous study called Can't Read, Won't Buy, which was conducted by a Common Sense Advisory, which is a think tank, probably the biggest consulting company in the language services area. So what they did is they studied how presenting the content in the native language affects the conversion rates, and how it helps companies and e-commerce websites to sell. So what they learned is that it actually has a huge effect, and that users will almost 2 times more likely buy in case the content is presented to them in their native language, even if they know English. Presenting the content to them in their language helped increase conversions. So that's first thing I wanted to show. Another thing is about the amount of content we're facing. So we're facing an ever-growing amount of content. My favorite number around this is the amount of time required for humanity to double the amount of content we own. So 100 years ago, we doubled amount of content once every 100 years. And these days, we do this almost every year. So it's hard to imagine, but every year we accumulate the same amount of content we accumulated through the whole our existence, which is crazy growth of content. No need to say that only a small fraction of that is localized professionally. Another aspect interesting here is the amount of languages you need to cover in order to speak with a reasonable amount of the global audience. So as we have more and more economies involved into the global economy, including Africa, Asia, India, South America, so we have more and more languages required to be speaking natively to the certain percentage of the audience. Like to do that to 90% of consumers in 2000, in year 2000, we required 13 languages, and now this number of languages is close to 50 and growing. So speaking natively and being able to localize your content is really important. This is another good example of that shows that basically every business these days is a media business, and every company is basically a media company. This is the amount of content we produce as a humanity, and a huge portion of that is due to the different business affairs. So it's not only personal communications, in only 60 seconds. So crazy numbers, and those numbers are also only growing, which basically puts new requirements for creating content and for localizing the content. We see the growing amount of content types we have to deal with today, and the life cycle for building the content and for localizing the content actually shrinks from months to days, and in some cases even hours. So a lot of companies require the news posts or the blog posts published in one language be localized into all the languages they support in less than an hour. So this all puts new challenges onto the language translation industry, and in a lot of cases, the industry isn't able to actually support these requirements. So that's what I'm speaking about. Today, businesses expect this connected experience in both creating the content, then localizing the content, pushing the content to their customers, getting their feedback, updating the content, and so on. So let's see how this can actually be addressed, and what's the opportunities to address these challenges here. Before doing that, let's see who's affected. Obviously, a lot of industries are affected. Anyone dealing with digital content, digital formats has something to do with this changing environment. Marketing and communications, for sure, that's what I was speaking about. A lot of companies publish their content and require to be communicating to all their audiences globally in their languages, like in real time, both when pushing them content and at the same time when getting their feedback and being able to support them, to provide them customer support in their languages and so on. Online retail, e-commerce, for sure. These type of companies have to deal with adding or updating hundreds, thousands, in some cases tens of thousands items on their websites per day, which is impossible without using the integrated solutions to connect with their warehouses, with their content producers, and with their translation and localization process. So the only way to deal with it is automated 100%. Online gaming, for online games, one of the major factors for growth is selling their games and presenting their games to international audiences in their languages. So it's totally important for them. Information technology companies, for sure, they are dealing with global teams and with global information systems. So they for sure are facing these issues. Education, manufacturing, everything, basically every industry is going through this digital transformation these days, and that's why it's important almost for everyone. So let's see what are the pain points of doing the localization and translation manually within the modern environment. First of all, it's too high time to market. The world is changing very fast, and it's important to be relevant and important to deliver your products, your software, your communications to market as soon as possible. So there's no option to be late with this. Another thing is that content not only being produced at high speeds, it's being constantly updated. So I mentioned e-commerce, I mentioned software development. A lot of industries are actually updating the content they produce regularly to stay relevant, and they need their translation process to be dealing with that in an efficient way. And the last but not the least is manual steps, which create bottlenecks for efficient content flows. But not only they create bottlenecks, they prevent from scaling into multiple languages, because that basically means that you have to double the size of your content team or localization team to be able to handle more languages, which is totally not an option, right? So we wanted to create to ask you to give us some feedback right here. So we're going to be starting a poll which allows you to specify which of these pains are actually suffering, and maybe add a little bit more. There's an option other, and please drop us other pain points you are facing in chat.
Yeah, let me just add that you can choose several options. It's not just one answer in case you suffer from all of them, maybe two of them. Thanks for voting.
Yeah, looks like manual steps are leading. I think we can close the poll right now.
Thank you.
Can you please mute yourself too? So, okay. Thanks for voting, and let's continue. Let's try to understand what can actually be done and what other companies actually do when the industry, when the traditional localization industry can't provide such a connected experience. We have a few examples here, but I really wanted to point out that big companies like Airbnb or Electronic Arts, they really have the localization and being able to speak in real time with their global audience as the significant and huge part of their business. And it was so critical to them that what they did, they built platforms themselves. So they own their content flows, they own their relations with their vendors, with their translators. Everything is automated just because their business is basically depending on this. And it's a great solution. I mean, in all the cases, it works for them perfectly. The only thing is that they had to invest literally millions of dollars into developing it. So that's what they did, and they're up and running, and they're successful with that. But if you are looking for similar challenges, there's actually no need these days to invest the same amount of money. We are actually on a mission to delivering it to the language services industry, and we basically call this workflow, this loop, which connects buyers with translators into one seamless content delivery loop, the connected translation. So these are 5 components which we see the most critical. Today we're going to be mostly focusing on delivery and connectivity parts, which are basically taking the content from your content repositories and delivering it back in the same format so that there's no need for manual interaction. But what we also have as a very significant part of our platform is management. So the way to deal with the content after you got it from your code repository or content repository, to turn it into translation projects like assigning the freelancers, tracking the workflow, working with vendors, working with quality assurance process, and so on. The scalability step, that's what basically allows you to add another language without additional effort by using our freelancer marketplace or our vendor marketplace, where you can hire a translation agency, one of those who are already working on Smartcat, or ask another agency or existing agency to work on Smartcat, and therefore scale into other languages very quick without need to gain the expertise of dealing with translations into a certain language. And the last but not the least is payments. So if you're dealing with all the people, you still have to pay them. That also can be done via the platform in one click. So this is how we suggest to address this. And let's focus, as I said, once again today, more on connectivity and delivery parts. We, as a platform, have connectors to the main content management systems for web. And today we're also going to be touching the software localization, specifically GitHub and other Git compatible repositories. So here's the list of connectors we currently have. Actually, there's more. Those are just the ones which are mostly used on our platform. I'm going to briefly mention what are these what are these ecosystems basically about. So WordPress. WordPress is the biggest content management system. It's accountable for almost 60% of the websites globally, which is a crazy number for sure. So it's the biggest content management system. In case you're talking to someone who has a website, 50% chance you're talking to someone who's running WordPress. So another one is Drupal and Joomla. Those two are contenders for WordPress. They also own a combined 20% of the market. So those 3 content management systems are accountable for almost for the vast majority of the websites. WordPress also has two options for localization. So WordPress natively doesn't have a mechanism for localizing the website. What they offer is using a third-party plugin for making the site translated into other languages. And there's many of them, but two plugins are mostly used. Those are Polylang and WPML. Polylang is free, WPML is a paid one. We're connected with both, so in case you need to localize a WordPress website, most likely we have you covered. There's a longer tail of other content management systems, like for example Bitrix, which is mostly used in Eastern Europe and Russia, so it's geographical specialization. There's Magento, which is a biggest e-commerce platform. So the biggest amount of e-commerce websites are actually running on Magento compared to other e-commerce content management systems. There's Zapier, which is a good one in terms of that it's a meta connector. It allows you to connect to more than 1,000 applications like cloud storages, Google Drive, Dropbox, like email, Gmail, Microsoft Office, the cloud version, Slack, messengers. So they have quite a number of apps. So Zapier allows you to connect your translation workflow with a lot of other content management systems. And the last but not the least is the integration with the software code repositories. So a lot of companies are developing software these days, and what unites them is that developers are using the so-called code repositories. It's the special systems where they store the developed code to collaborate on it in an efficient way. So we have a connector that works with this code repositories, monitors the changes in the strings, and allows you to be dealing with the application, with the web application or mobile application localization without having to stop the development team from contributing into the repository. This is not the way this thing functioned in the previous era, when to deliver the localized product, sometimes you had to stop the development and contributions into the main branch of your product for a week or two while the translation team was working. So now we enable you to build a continuous process here. Before we continue, we wanted to ask you to give us feedback on what systems are you actually using. We're going to start another poll right here. Okay, can you please do that? Yes, I think we're started here. So same as the previous time, you can drop us in chat another options if you're not using something mentioned here. But if you do use something mentioned here, please let us know. We also are constantly adding new connectors, and that allows that feedback actually allows us to prioritize. So that would be great to know. All right, we see that almost everyone voted. Looks like we mostly have Magento, WordPress, and other today. Okay, thank you for voting. Let's continue. So another thing I wanted to touch is what can you actually do if the content repository or software, oops, I'm sorry, was not mentioned on the previous slides, or if we don't have a connector. What we also have is an open API, which allows you to integrate your almost any product with Smartcat. So even if the connector wasn't mentioned, or you have another system, there's a way to establish a continuous localization process for you. Let us know. In some cases, we add new connectors based on requests. In some cases, we connect you with development partners from our ecosystem who can help you with establishing the product, the continuous process. So What I wanted to do right now is to actually do a quick demo of how it works in real life. I'm going to be using Magento as an example. So as I mentioned, Magento is the e-commerce platform, and what we have here is a Magento demo website, and here it is. So basically, Magento allows you to have the basic e-commerce functionality up and running very fast. You can update goods, organize it, you can manage parameters, you can have anything which is related to adding to cart, buying, and so on. So let's see how it works from the administration standpoint, and let us log into the admin panel here. All right, so in a lot of cases, the CMS entrance page looks pretty much the same. It's the dashboard, which allows us to quickly understand what's going on the website, and there's a menu of actions we can further do here. So what the another thing Magento is famous for is that it's actually an open ecosystem. It allows partners to develop extensions, to add functionality, and that's what we basically did. We developed a Magento extension. What it does, it modifies a little bit this main left menu here, adds here the localization part, and let's see what we added. So first thing we need to do is to configure the extension right here. So we need to specify the Smartcat web server, the Smartcat server we're working on. So we have 3 instances. In this case, we're going to be using the USA instance, and we also need to enter the specify the API key and the Smartcat account ID to synchronize this particular Magento instance with the Smartcat instance. So this is done right here, and after we establish this connection and everything is working, what we also need to define only the first time we set up the system. There's no need to do it every time we translate things, is the translation profile. So the translation profile is basically a set of rules applied to the content sent for translation. Let me create a new one real fast just to show you how it goes. And you can apply different translation profiles to different types of content. For example, you can translate certain portions of your catalog into different sets of languages. Let us create, for example, English into Spanish and French, right? So here you can be choosing the vendor. We connected the Magento instance to our Smartcat account. We have quite a number of vendors added to this account, so it can be your language service provider, it can be your internal team or freelancers found on Smartcat Marketplace. So it's totally up to you to choose the vendor here. Then we need to specify the language. That's obviously English US and the target languages. We were planning to be translating into Spanish. Let me quickly find that. There it is. And also French. All right, you can also define the workflow here. We're going to be using just translation, and we can also specify, the last but not the least, is we can also set this translation profile to be running in continuous localization mode, which means that every time we add new item to our catalog, or every time we update an item in our product catalog on this Magento website, the content will be automatically sent for translation. So this is what I was speaking about, that there's no need to to have your content team or your product catalog management team. There's no need to have them thinking about localizing the content. What they just continue in their normal way, and this translation profile will be taking care of localizing the content they add or they update for them. So we just set and successfully saved the profile here, and we can actually proceed to the catalog. So here's yeah, so here's the last one, translation, edit here. Catalog is a standard Magento functionality, obviously. What our extension does is it actually changes here a little bit, changes the UI and the interface here a little bit, adding some options here. So let us check a couple of products here. We can choose a category. We can choose all the products on this page. The thing is that we're once again not leaving Magento or not exporting the content to translate anything, right? So I've chosen 2 products, and what I'm going to do now is using the standard actions tab here. It's standard Magento functionality. We have this submit for translation added by our extension. I'm going to be sending files for translation using our newly created profile. So I'm confirming sending these 2 for translation. And what we can do here is go to the dashboard. It contains all the previously sent jobs and also the job we just created. And we can monitor the status here. So everything here we can see that there are 2 products I was choosing, and for each product we have 2 tasks created, from English into Spanish and from English into French. So therefore we have 4 tasks created. But we have them in status waiting, which means that currently the extension is working with Smartcat to pack all the content and to send it to Smartcat. It's based on cron, which is a regularly running job execution script on the server, which means that every minute everything is sent and synchronized to Smartcat and back when it's translated. So let us give us the cron a couple of minutes to sync the products here, and as soon as it will be done, we will see that the status here is updated to the status here is updated, and we can see that the project will be created, like in this instance, for example. So this dashboard allows your content management once again without leaving the their tool, their CMS, to monitor and to have an insight on the translation process. While we're waiting for the content to be sent, I'm going to do a very brief overview of what Smartcat is inside. And I'm not going to be getting into a lot of details, definitely, because that's all-in-one platform. It combines a lot of things. So here we have the list of projects for translation. We can also manage resources. Main resources in the translation industry are basically translation memories and glossaries that allows you to reuse previously translated things and be consistent on your terminology. Another thing you can manage here is the usage of machine translation for your projects. It can be used to increase the productivity. It can help you to localize different types of content which are not that visible and which are acceptable to be first machine translated and then post-edited. Another thing you have here is your team. As I think I already mentioned, that Smartcat has no limitations here. You can have your internal team translating for you. You can find freelancers on our freelancer marketplace. You can have vendors from our marketplace or your own vendors, and you can also manage payments right here. So anything which is required to have your process up and running continuously without needing to leave the system or to do things manually is here in place. Let us check back with Magento real fast on the project creation. Fingers crossed. The status is created, right? So here we see that the pieces of content we sent for translation is already in the created status, which means that there's a project, there's a corresponding project in Smartcat, and we can go ahead and click go to Smartcat right here, or we can just use our account, refresh our tab here, and this is how it will actually work for translators. So they will not, there will be no need to go to Magento and to see if there's something to translate for translators. They will just be using their Smartcat account and get notifications that the new project was actually created. So here's the project which is created. It should contain 4 jobs for 2 languages for both of our items we were sending for translation. So let me do a real fast job here to translate this content. For the sake of this demo, we're not going to be using professional translators or assigning any vendors. Like in your case, it will most probably be. We will be just using the machine translation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save and run and actually pre-translate the whole project with machine translation. And I'm also going to be confirming them at translation stage. All right, I think we're done. Let us now go ahead and see the translation of this item into Spanish, for example. We're now moving from the project management tab into the editor tab. That's where actually the translators or your internal translators or freelancers are working. And that allows you to have all the modern translation technology at your fingertips. So here we have the pre-translated version of our items. It includes all the parameters we have. So we have name here, we have short description, the full description. And what we're going to do right now is basically confirm all the segments here. And the system will notify us the same as it will do when translator or post editor is working on any inconsistencies. For example, in this case, the tags which allows to maintain formatting were not moved to the segment, so they didn't look like in source, and the system is notifying the translator in charge that tags needs to be managed, not to spoil the formatting. That's what I'm going to do real fast, not to spoil the formatting in our target. Translation. All right, 2 more. I'm just taking care of the tags. The translator will obviously be taking more care about maintaining the language and actually translating. Unfortunately, I'm not that fluent in Spanish to do that part, but technically we just did the translation and we can set this file to completed. And as soon as we are back into our project management tab, we can see that this particular file is completed, and it means that it's actually on its way back to Smartcat. So what our extension does, as I mentioned, it constantly talks to Smartcat and synchronizes it with Magento. So we can see here that we should already see, by the way, the in progress status from the item we were editing. And let's see how it looks here in Magento. Yeah, it looks like we were so fast to translate that the extension didn't pass the in progress status here. But if the translator is working on the item for, let's say, half an hour, the content manager here in Magento would be seeing that the status is changed into in progress and then into completed. So once again, let's give our Magento instance quite a minute to sync the content back. And the main idea here is that as soon as it is back, and it's going to happen exactly the same way as it happened when we were sending translation to Smartcat, so there's no need to do anything manually. So as soon as the content is back, it will be immediately published on the localized version of your Magento website in the way you configure in your Magento instance. So that's the idea, and that's the demo of the connected translation scenario I wanted to do today. So let us get back to the presentation here for a while and refresh a little bit what actually it allows you to achieve. So the connected translation basically allows you to achieve the native communication with your customers all around the world in their native language, which is really important according to the figures we saw today. It also allows you to spend less time taking your products to market and entering new regions, which is also critical these days. You also eventually get the localization process, which is easy to set up, the way we did it today, for example, control and develop, which means that through this one point of integration, you can eventually be using and actually updating and evolving your content translation process continuously. You can be switching vendors, you can be switching freelancers, you can search for resources which provide similar quality for the lower prices. It's all at your fingertips, and that's what the scalability component of our connected translation is actually about. And eventually, by using this, you're a technology savvy company, which allows you to position eventually yourself both internally and externally in a better way. So what are the next steps? So in case it is interesting, in case it's relevant, so what can you actually do next? I didn't mention today yet, but actually everything I demoed today, so all this scenario is basically free, so you don't have to pay for any component of it. Both the CAT functionality, the translation interface, the team management, the connector, everything is free. So there's no need to do anything here. You can just register an account, log in, and try it out, set up a process, run your first connected translation project. In case we were not demoing any platform or any content solution you are interested in today, you can go ahead and check our Smartcat YouTube channel. It has close to 40 integrations already there, starting with this content management systems I was mentioning today and ending with quite a number of other platforms available through Zapier. We also have there the demo for GitHub integration. And in case you need any additional documents or anything is not clear, just drop me a line. You have invitations from me in your email for this webinar. You can just reply that or just use this email address to drop me a line. And in case you need any additional development or any additional assistance, we have more than 1,000 language service providers and technology companies working on our platform. We can for sure connect you with one of the partners in your region who can help you develop the best process and solution for you. So the last call for today, and let's have it started. It's actually a bit of a joke, but we will be thankful if you can spend another click and vote for it. So without further ado, we can get into Q&A here.
Right, so I'm closing the, thank you for your answers. Yeah, I'm closing it. Actually, yes, we do have a question from Marco. He's asking, in case he have a Magento integration with Smartcat, does he still need to assign the project or task manually?
As I said, you have to set up the process manually once when you first set up this connection. And after that, using those two checkboxes in creating the translation profile, which actually allow you to send the content automatically for translation whenever you add it to the catalog or update it, there's no need to send anything for translation inside Smartcat. So as soon as you add new piece of your inventory. Our extension automatically sends it to Smartcat, and when the process in Smartcat is first established, when you first enabled your first translation project, it will automatically apply the same settings. So it will auto-assign freelancers or send the content for your translation vendor, and as soon as they complete the job, it will get back to your Magento instance without any need for additional manual actions. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, Marco, please let us know. And we have another question from Marco as well. In the example you showed where the project was created, what happens for the next two products you will need to translate? Will a new product be created, or can the new product be added to the same project initially created?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. Looks like you're already are pretty familiar with how localization project management works. So you can organize it in different ways. Basically, the answer is that you can control it. What we have in Magento Magento extension configuration is the project ID. In case you specify it, all new items or all updated items will go to a specified project inside Smartcat, and that actually allows you to set up this predefined and preset translation workflows, which will be automatically applied to this content. That's what these translation workflows are very useful for. So you can create different workflows which rely on different projects inside Smartcat, and this way, by using different translation workflows to send the content for translation, you will be by default using the settings you defined. So the answer is everything is at your control, and you can configure it using these translation workflows.
Okay, thanks. Guys, if you have more questions, yes, we do. Oh, yeah, thank you, Marco, for your questions. Yeah, I'd just like to remind that you can also simply raise your hand and you can speak in case, I don't know, you're connecting from the phone and you just can't print in the question, so you can talk to us as well. Oh, Mark is asking, yeah, are project IDs the same for Magento and WordPress?
Project IDs from Magento and WordPress. Not sure if I got the answers. Project IDs specify projects inside Smartcat which your content is sent to using the connectors. You can specify the same project ID in your WordPress and Magento instance. This way, your both websites will be sending the content to one and the same project. But I don't quite imagine why you would do that. In most cases, it's quite the opposite. So you're going to be using different project IDs inside Smartcat for Magento and for WordPress connectors. For Magento and WordPress, you're just going to be using different connectors. I was demoing Magento extension today. You can go ahead and check WPML and Polylang demos on our YouTube to see how WordPress integrations work. Pretty much the same. You configure the connection, you specify the translation workflow, and you are able to send content for translation either manually or automatically. So hope that answers the question.
Thanks. So do we have more questions or everything is clear? Let's wait. Seems like no, we have one more. I'll check the videos. Yes, Marco, and we will send you the link to our YouTube channel where you can find all the videos for all connectors. Okay, so shall we finish?
Yeah, most likely. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Marco, for the questions.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time. And when I close the session, you will see the post-webinar survey with just 2 questions. I would appreciate if you can answer, because this will help us to make a better job for you with webinars. Thanks again, and have a nice end of the day to everybody.
Bye. Have a nice rest of the day.